The spread of olive trees in ancient times shows how the Israelites colonized the Mediterranean. Now, in our modern world, olive trees are everywhere, but it didn't used to always be this way, and we know that because Herodotus wrote about how there was a period of time when there was no olive trees growing anywhere in Europe outside of Athens. However, before the olive tree arrived in Greece, it first came to the island of Crete, and we know this because we found Minoan palaces with olive presses as well as olive oil containers called pythioses, which are older than the city of Athens itself. The island of Crete is also the place where the first king of Troy came from, which is why Virgil calls Mount Ida on Crete the cradle of the Trojan race. And you can make the argument that the Romans who descended from the survivors of Troy valued olives more than gold because they chose to make their crowns out of olive branches. The use of olives were even used in religious ceremonies because Homer recounts how Hector was anointed with olive oil, which is an Israelite tradition that dates all the way back to the Levitical priesthood and King Saul. But before Troy was founded, you had King Minos, who the Minoans are named after, and according to Thucydides, he essentially created the first empire in the Aegean Sea, spreading the olive tree to the places he conquered, such as Athens, which is where Pausanias said one of Minos's sons was buried. Although Minos and his family didn't just fall out of the sky, no, they came from Phoenicia, which is really just the land of Israel. This is where the olive tree is native to, and Aristotle confirms this by telling us the story of how, when the Phoenicians first started sailing to Tarshish, they got so rich despite them only having olive oil to sell because there were no olive trees in Spain yet, meaning that the Phoenicians had a monopoly. Another group of people who had an abundance of olives were the Mycenaeans, and we know this from their Linear B inscriptions. But more interesting than that is, we have found Mycenaean pottery in the land of Israel, specifically in the region which belonged to the tribe of Dan, and that is because the Danaan Greeks are the tribe of Dan, which we read in the book of Judges were sailing ships in the Mediterranean. So when the book of Zechariah compares the house of Israel and the house of Judah to two olive trees, this is not just a meaningless analogy. Judah is the maintained olive tree, which stayed in the region olive trees are native to, and Israel is the wild olive tree, which migrated to all the places in Europe that the olive tree is not native to. There, the house of Israel fell into paganism, but some of their myths still contained the same nature as the Old Testament historical records, such as the story of baby Romulus, who, according to Livy, when there was an evil king who wanted to slay him, his mother rescued him by putting Romulus in a basket and floating him down the river, and there he was lifted up out of the river and raised by a she-wolf who symbolically represents Pharaoh's daughter in this uncultivated retelling of the origin story of baby Moses. The reason the Romans had this legend is because they descended from Israelites who settled in Crete. This is why Paul told the Romans that they're the children of Abraham as well as the children of God, just as Yahweh told Moses how he is a father to Israel. And as that wild olive tree, the Romans were grafted back into the maintained olive tree, reuniting both kingdoms as one olive tree with Christ, the everlasting Father, as the root and his people as the branches.